Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by Beam. There's nothing like kicking off your bedtime routine with a nice warm glass that tastes like hot cocoa. But soon after you finish that cup, you're out cold. I don't know about you guys. I know PC, you struggle with your sleep, so maybe this would help you.
Yes.
But I'm sleeping for 9 to 10 hours. At least that's what Beam Dream it does for me. The night before a tough workout, I'm taking that Beam because I need my sleep before I full send the workout. For a limited time, you can get up to 35% off with the link in our description and use the code MCU at checkout. On today's episode, I'm joined with Patrick Clark and Ava Kitzi to discuss some of the top storylines that they're watching from the teen divisions going into the CrossFit Games. Now, just to set the scene a bit, the teen division, it will feature a total of 10 athletes across each of their divisions. They start the first day of competition on Thursday, August 4th, and it will end on that Saturday, August 6th. Now, luckily, there won't be any cuts for the teens this year, but the field it was shrunk down from the original 10 that we had, or I'm sorry, 20 that we had last year to just 10. How do you both think that that will impact the divisions? PC, let's start with you.
Um, I think it was for the teen division. I think it was a bad idea. This is CrossFit that's trying to grow the sport, and obviously we're seeing a lot of teen athletes that are competing in individuals. What better way to showcase them, the next generation, by having as many of those teens, the next generation, on the field, on the floor of competition? And saying 20 is plenty and plenty, but I mean you have a lot of athletes who are just starting CrossFit at 14, 15 years old, and they only have a small window to make it to the games until and until they eventually become individual athletes if they choose to pursue to go that route. But I think for someone like this team division, I think they should have kept it at 20. Just a simple case of just expanding your growth into the teenage division, which is such a farm system for the next generation of stars.
Ava, what are your thoughts on the layout this year?
Yeah, I would agree with PC. I was a team competitor myself, and when they cut down from 20 to 10 in 2019, I felt discouraged. I wasn't going to make the games, but I still felt discouraged. And there's a lot of athletes I know this year that just barely didn't make that cut that are great ambassadors for the sport. Brooklyn Citner is one that I think of. She's a 15-year-old, has been doing CrossFit for ages. Ages. She's
Ages, like years.
But also, we're starting to see the teen athletes from a few years ago start to come into the individual division. And that can be a great momentum builder if you give these athletes a chance to, experience the games as a teenager. They're going to keep trying to get back. So, we're seeing Dallin Pepper and Tudor Magda and Rebecca Fuselier, all of the nowadays.
So do you guys think that it's better to have the field at 20 and have cuts versus this is what we get and we're not doing any cuts?
I think 20 with cuts, because at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know how many workouts I had last year, but at some point, some of these, they kind of separate themselves. So instead of discouraging them, and also just giving those top 10 athletes, especially the last couple workouts, a kind of a chance to just put them on display and be like, hey, these are the next stars, and it kind of gives the other 10 that got cut motivation to fall if they have another year in that field, to be like, hey, next year I'm not going to get cut, and try even harder. I mean, getting cut leaves a sour taste in someone's mouth. I mean, I've been cut from sports teams, and I've came back following year more committed to doing stuff like that. So I think if anything, it teaches teenagers that failure is okay. You just have to work harder to be at the level that you want to be at.
Ava, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with PC again. I think it's again a momentum builder. I'm sure if we looked back, we could see some teens that got cut in 2015, 2016, when I know they had cuts down to 5. They had fields of 10 in 2015 and 2016 and cut down to 5. So yeah, definitely a momentum builder.
Okay, PC, let's start with you. We're going to get into your one storylines from each division. We'll start with the 14 to 15 category.
Well, let's start with the girls on that one, and it has to be Lucy. Lucy May. Let's see, it's McGonagall.
Yeah.
Yeah, McGonagall. She's from, I believe, Ireland, or is she from the UK?
I think
Ireland.
she moved.
Yeah, she's from Ireland.
Oh,
she's from
her
Ireland.
flag is still Ireland.
Yeah, yep, exactly. I see. I was right the first time. Always stick with the right answer. First answer. Remember that. Remember that, Ava, when you're at college this coming fall. First answer. We actually interviewed her when she won the, I believe was it this quarterfinals or semifinals?
Semifinal.
Yeah, semifinals.
Yeah.
We interviewed her, and she's the top returning athlete from that division. Obviously, the athletes, the girls that competed last year were, you had Trissa Smith, you had Olivia Kirstead. They aged up, but McGonagall, she finished, I believe she finished 4th or 5th, so she wasn't too far out of that podium spot. Actually, yeah, she actually did podium.
Yeah, no, she was. Yeah.
Yeah, she finished 3rd, and she's I believe it's only happened 3 times that in the girls division where a 14-year-old actual podium, because usually what you see in the teen division is you see the older athletes who are typically, they're older, they're probably a little bit more mature, their body's developed a little bit more. They're usually the ones that are standing on top of the podium, but here she was as a 14-year-old standing on the podium with other 15-year-olds. And you'll see that in the other divisions, especially the boys division. The women's division will be a little bit different this year. And then on the boys side, it's kind of, I don't know too much about the boys side, and I'm hoping Ava, she probably knows a little bit more. There's some names in there. RJ Mestry is obviously the one that sticks out. He's a returner, but this year's field is all 15-year-olds. Last year, RJ Kios Subiano, they were 14-year-olds competing in this division, but this year it's all 15-year-olds. So a lot of these kids or I call them kids, but boys, they're actually a little bit more developed and they're ready to go. But RJ has to probably be the person to watch in this division. But there's some other ones there, and I'm sure Ava will talk about that. Moving on to the girls 16 to 17. I mean, it starts
We'll come back to you, PC.
Okay. Yeah, let's give Ava some. Yeah,
Ava, yes.
help me out here, Ava.
Yes, Ava, let's help PC out on the men or the boys side 14 to 15. We know what's the storyline we're looking at. Is it with RJ?
Yeah, so definitely RJ is kind of who we're looking at here. I've seen RJ compete a few times, and he's significantly ahead, I would say, of most of the field, but also Kaio Subiano, and he trains with his older brother and a 14-15 girls athlete, Marissa Nichols. They all train together, so they have a really good kind of group going on there, which always helps. So he also competed at the games last year and at Wadapalooza. And then also Leonardo Torres. He is like a pretty well-versed in competition. He does a lot of Olympic weightlifting. So I'll be excited to see him, get on the competition floor with, his calm, cool, and collectedness that you need for Olympic weightlifting.
That's for sure. Okay, who are you looking at on the girls 14 to 15 category? What is the storyline?
Of course, Lucy and also Riley Beebe. She
I believe it's BB.
BB, okay. She trains out of CrossFit New England with the Comp Train crew. She went to the games last year as a 14-year-old with only like less than a year of CrossFit experience after quitting gymnastics, and has just grown so much. And obviously, having Chandler Smith and Amanda Barnhart and the rest of the Comp Train crew, that's going to help a lot.
I think Riley's a perfect example of what we talked about before. About she did get cut, and so she wasn't able to perform the rest of the weekend. I believe that Thursday. So she finished 15th, but here she is this year. She used that as fuel. She started training with Chandler, the Comp Train crew up there. She used that fire. Now she's considered, after Lucy, probably the second someone that's going to push Lucy and probably the second best 14 to 15-year-old out there.
Okay, PC, let's move to the girls 16 to 17 storylines there.
Obviously, it starts with Olivia. I mean, anyone that follows her, which is quite a few people on Instagram, knows what she
PRs every day.
Yeah, every day. Every day is a PR. She wakes up PR. She probably PR'd her sleep this morning, probably using Beam. Who knows? But so I'm jealous of that. But yeah, Olivia, obviously, she's the favorite going in. But I will say, I think Trista Smith is going to give her a run for the money. It's not as cut and dry as people are thinking. And the reason why is obviously Trista kind of flew under the radar last year, but she was someone that, this year she dedicated herself, and just like Olivia, she qualified through a semifinal. She was one of the top athletes in the Open. She qualified. She was top 100, I think top 120 in the quarterfinals. Qualified for a semifinal. Elected, just like Olivia, elected to come back for one more year of the individual.
Yeah, she finished 110th in quarterfinals.
But not only that, she started training under Adam Neiffer, Adam Neiffer, up at CrossFit Fort Vancouver with Ellie Turner and, of course, Justin Medeiros. So that's their little train. It's those three that are training together. So can you imagine the information that Trista, what she's dealing with every day? And yeah, I think she's going to give Olivia a push. I mean, Olivia probably has her in terms of raw strength, but I do see Trista doing very well in like classic CrossFit, movements.
Okay, who are you following in the 16 to 17 division?
Well, Caleb McClure, he won this. He won the semifinal, but it's Ty Jenkins that kind of sticks out to me. Ty is someone that did really well last year. He's attempting to do something that's only Dallin Pepper, Angelo DeChico, Chloe Smith, and Kayla Stefano did, and that's win multiple titles in different divisions, because he won it last year as a 14, 15-year-old, and this year as a 16-year-old. He's he finished second in the semifinal, so he seems to be getting stronger. He started following Mayhem programming. He just did a weekend camp down in Mayhem with Rich Froning and a bunch of other Masters athletes that follow that. So he's freakishly strong. He's a football player, which I enjoy, being a former football player. So he has that football player mentality of not quitting and just putting your nose down and grinding. So I think Ty's going to do very well, even though he's probably not the number one seeded athlete.
Ava, staying with the boys 16 to 17 division.
Well, yeah. First, I would like to say that Ty is also a phenomenal swimmer. So any swimming event, you can it's not even close.
Count on him.
But I'm going to talk about Rockvi Goodnessson. He's from CrossFit Reykjavik, and he is one of the two teens that's training at the Pit Fitness Ranch with, of course, the team,
cool.
BKG. So, the Pit is known for their teens, and he has a great community back at home, but now here at the Pit. And I talked to Con Porter last week, and he just had amazing things to say about Rockvi and the other teen girl, and that they're just so composed and mature with how they approach workouts. So yeah, he'll be super exciting to see.
Who are you watching in the girls 16?
Obviously Olivia and Trista, but Sophie Schaft is my best friend. So I'm definitely watching her. She's going to be in a pretty close race with Jadzia. They're both from Michigan. Last year they were really close as well. They were 4th and 5th, and then they were 4th and 5th again this year in semifinals, I believe. Yeah. So they're going to be a fun back and forth to watch. They have very diametrically opposed strengths. Obviously, Sophie is really good with the lifting, and Jadzia has other strengths. So yeah, they'll be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, that division, especially on the girls' side, is pretty stacked. A lot of returners. You have Rebecca Devine just, during Granite Games, she decided to show up at Granite Games and won her division there, while in the middle of games training. And then, Haley Rolfe, who she aged up, she was a podium finisher. I I remember watching her at the Pitt Fitness Ranch 2 years ago, and how she's developed as an athlete the last couple of years. She went from someone who finished outside the top 10 at the Pitt Fitness Ranch, which was one of her first major competitions, to a year and a half later, podium at the games at the 14, 15-year-old, alongside someone like Olivia Kerstetter. And then it's a stacked field, and yeah, it should be fun to watch.
The other fun thing about
Ava.
Haley Rolfe is that last year at the games, her coach she had either just given birth or was about to give birth. So they just FaceTimed through all the events. So now that,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now that, and
fun fact.
Her coach, Emily Tanner, she's on a team that qualified for
Yes.
through Grand Games. But yeah, now that she has an in-person coach.
Game changer.
I believe that's Greater Heights, right?
Yeah, Greater Heights.
Yeah. That her coach is actually competing on a team at the games, CrossFit Greater Heights. They finished 4th at Granite Games. So yeah, having an in-person coach, especially for someone like her, a younger athlete, it makes a world of difference. So she finished 3rd last year, just FaceTiming her coach. Imagine how granted, her coach is going to be busy too, but however, it should be fun.
Ava, what would you say your bottom line is for the teen division?
For me, I've gotten to watch all of these athletes as my competitors and friends. And I think I found like a charm in that I think everyone else can find too, watching the teen division. They're obviously doing great, amazing athletic things, but they also are kids. They'll like give peace signs during workouts and, cry and fall down and give each other high fives. So I think the teen division is just always so fun to watch because you get to see them be kids.
Oh, I love that. I just got chills. That's so cool. PC, what's your bottom line?
I don't know how I follow that up. It's been so long since
you don't, but it's okay.
It's so long since I felt like a kid. You just kind of like what I said with the Masters. This is the future of the sport. I didn't say the Masters are the future of the sport, but I'm just saying. But people need to come out and watch these athletes. This is your opportunity to see Olivia Kerstetter and Tristan Smith, who probably next year will be competing at semifinals and competing for game spots next year. So this is your last time to kind of see them, as teenagers. If people knew what they knew about Mal O'Brien, Emma Carey, Emma Lawson, they probably would have paid more attention to them when they're in a teen division, because you get to see them develop. And just watching Emma Lawson from the games to when I saw her at Dubai was a completely different athlete. And that just shows you how fast these teenagers are progressing. We as adults, we always say these kids are growing up so fast, and they really are in the CrossFit domain, especially the 16 to 17-year-old. They're maturing. They know what they want. They have goals. They have aspirations. A lot of them are probably going to put off college to train full-time as an athlete. You're seeing that already with people like Mal O'Brien, and you're going to see that with maybe someone like Olivia. But this is an opportunity that we all wish we have, and we get to see these young adults, these teenagers, just go out there and, like Ava said, have fun, be a teenager, but at the same time, they're setting their path in terms of their careers for the next 10, 20 years, however long they want to compete as a CrossFitter.